Good morning. Oh, yay. My favorite day. I get to look at all you. Yay. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. Now, I'm a Trekkie. Did you know that? I think I've told you a couple of times. Yeah, total Trekkie. Yep, Star Trek. How many of you are Trekkies? Trekkies in the house? Oh, yeah. That's right. Live long and prosper, yeah. Yeah. There's something really interesting. So I really got something when I was watching Next Generation. I watched the whole series. I'm probably at almost finished with Deep Space Nine. So I watched, the old Star Treks and all the movies in between. My wife and I have just been going through it all. And when we have some free time, it's like, oh, let's do Star Trek. And so it's been really fun. The thing that struck me, especially Next Generation, I just got it. They can replicate everything. Everything. Anything they need, they can replicate it, right? So what if you didn't need money anymore? What if society didn't need money? What if we didn't need money? Then what? It really struck me because I thought, our whole society right now is really based on money. It is. And it's getting money, acquiring money. There's 99% of the world has less money than 1%. 1% of the world is holding all the money. And it's very unequal. But what happens if we don't need money anymore? Well, then what would you do for a job? Yeah. What would you love? What would you love to do? I mean, it really, and it made me think, what if, actually, I'm not doing this for money, but what if you weren't doing what you're doing for money, right? I mean, I'm grateful. Thank you for paying me. You can keep paying me. I'll say yes to that. And what if you were doing what you really wanted to be doing without thinking about money? What would that be like?
7 days a week instead of
2. You get to live 7 days a week instead of 2. Yeah. There's a lot of looking forward to the weekend. This is the great why? Because, it's the daily grind. And then, the weekend is my free time. Well, what if you're doing your passion? What if you were doing what you love? What kind of world would we live in? What kind of world would we live in? It's really interesting because this week we're talking about, this month, the May, we're talking about spiritual guidance and personal responsibility, which means how are we receiving our own spiritual guidance and how are we taking personal responsibility for what's going on in the world? And our weekly theme is that we believe that any person may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. So, a lot of religions profess of having the one true prophet, right? This is the right, you got to follow this path because this is the one person who knew the way. Well, what if you and I are all the new prophets? What if you and I are Jesus or Buddha? I mean, what if Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and Krishna were all hanging out in a room together? That'd be us. Yeah. Try that on. How does that feel? What if it really is? Because it is. And instead of stepping outside of ourselves, looking for that thing, that person, to be the one, what if the one is right here, inside each and every one of us? I love this teaching. I really do, because first of all, I'm living my dream, so that's cool. I am practicing when I preach, which isn't always easy. It is, as a matter of fact, the more I'm gonna break it to you. The more you get into this, the more challenging it is. The more you realize what we're talking about here, the more you realize what needs to shift inside. And at least for me, it's not always easy. I mean, for some of you, it's going to be like so easy. And I'll be like, oh, can I just, rub shoulder? No. So one thing that I know is that there's only one life. We teach here there's only one life. That life is divine, and we are part of that one life. So logically, there's no way we cannot be apart from that one life. It is the one thing. It's like we are drops in an ocean. Well, is a drop in the ocean separate from the ocean? No. Or is the wave separate from the ocean? No. That's all of us. We're all part of that one life expressing uniquely, individually, and yet there's no separation between any of us. It's kind of like cells in a body, right? So, and you could be the heart cell, or you could be part of the liver cells, or you could be, they all have a purpose and a function and a way of expressing themselves uniquely, but it's not like they're not important. Everyone is important. So it doesn't matter if you see a homeless person on the street, or you see the president of the country, they're equal in the mind of the infinite one. And someday, maybe they'll be equal in our minds, too. When we really get who we really are. We also teach here that our life is our beliefs. So basically, life, God, the infinite one, the universe, divine intelligence works through us. And we say the law brings forward demonstrations in our life. And we call it the law because there is a way that God, Spirit, the universe works that is consistent for each person. We say if you're a prisoner and you're planting carrot seeds in a garden, you're going to still get carrot seeds, even if you murdered somebody. And if you're a person who is the Pope and you're planting carrot seeds, you're going to get carrots because you're planting the same thing. The law, the universe, God doesn't care. It operates through each and every person the same. And so we each have the ability to connect, to contact, to achieve that connection with the infinite one. And we each have the ability to utilize that life force in a way that supports us in our life and in a way that supports the world. Some of us choose to utilize that in one way, and some of us choose to utilize it in another way. Have you ever been around somebody where always like the most amazing things happen to them? I know you're around me, but yeah, well, it's true. They keep happening. It's really cool. And then there's the person who like the sucky things keep happening to, like, oh, and then they trip and they fall and they're like, oh, this always happens to me, and well, there's a reason for that. It's because they keep saying it. And I keep telling you how great my life is because then you tap into that belief system and you affirm it, and just as much as I do, it creates it for me. So you can have this one way, the infinite one is creating through us, through our belief systems. We had albaalamillo here last month, and she talked about how if you think something 1,000 times, it becomes a belief. But then the law of the universe is that the infinite one is creating upon our belief systems, actually, especially our subconscious belief systems. So we think something 1,000 times and we create this belief system, and then the power of the universe moves through us and creates this amazing or not so amazing life because we've created this belief system on what we think life is. And so my wife tells me I say "and so" too much. I caught myself this time. I watch my videos afterwards. I'm like, oh man. At least it's not but I just replaced it with something else. Like, you see, that's another one I do. Now that I told you, you're all gonna know. Oh man. Anyway, the whole point is that we are part of that one thing. And it is constantly creating. And it's constantly creating through us all the time. But there's something bigger happening. A lot of times I'm talking about the individual, but I want to kind of take this into a broader context. I want to take this into this book that I'm reading, at least, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. by Charles Eisenstein. I have these for sale for $22 in the back if you want to buy it. It's really powerful. I'm not done with it yet. And he talks about our cultural story, our human story, the story that we've been inventing up for ourselves for a long time. And he calls it the story of separation. And what we've taught ourselves to believe about ourselves is that we're separate individuals amongst other separate individuals in a universe that's separate from you as well. When you are in the story of separation, this old story, it's a story of competition. It's a story of better than. It's a story of being goal-oriented, achieving results, mastering the universe. Also, it's a story of living in a silo and feeling alone. Now, I don't know about you. I am a goal-oriented person. And I like to play games and win. I'll admit it. And that's the old story. It's a human story, though. It's really big, and it's so big that we've created wars and we've killed millions, maybe billions of people because of our old story of where we think we're separate from each other, and so whenever I kill you, then it's not doing any harm to me. But the truth is, when I do harm to you, I'm doing harm to me. When I'm doing harm to me, I'm doing harm to you. And this is a new story that we're starting to recognize and realize. Now, this is our truth, and it's been our truth all along, but somewhere along the way, we as a human group decided together that we were going to see what happens when we create this story of separation, only because we want to feel what it feels like to reconnect with each other. And in this book, he talks about that there was the seeds of the truth of who we really are that we believed a long time ago as humans, and the people who kept those secrets were the mystics of the time, the Kabbalists, the Sufis, the native peoples. And they kept these secrets for a really long time. If you've read the Four Agreements, the Toltec wisdom, until a time when the world needed to remember who it was. When the age of separation had gotten to its maximum point where we needed to reintegrate and reconnect to who we are. And at that time, there would be something that would shift in our consciousness where all the secrets would come out publicly. So we would start to remember. Now, if you notice, this is happening now. And it's very disorienting. Because everything we've been taught and everything we know about our life is this world of separation. We've lived in it, we've been brought up in it, our culture talks about it, our parents think that that's the truth. We've thought it's the truth. And then this new story comes into being, and somewhere inside of each and every one of us, it stirs. This is right. This is the truth, and I recognize this truth. And yet there's this discordance, disharmony happening. And it's happening everywhere. He talks about in the book how the age of separation needs to die. And in between that is a gap. And when the gap has had its spaciousness, the population shifts into the age of interbeing, the age of reconciliation. And so each and every one of us have an opportunity to be in that age of reconciliation. But there's also a gap. So maybe you've realized that, as I've realized, that there's still competition going on within me. I do this women's retreat. It's called SisterSpirit. It's amazing. Who's been to SisterSpirit? Yeah. Is it amazing? Yes, life-changing. And it is, because it's bigger than me. And I have a huge opportunity to bring this to the world. Now, while I have this huge opportunity, it's been going on for 9 years, and I was coached by another a group of women who did another retreat called WomanSpirit. So I do SisterSpirit, they did WomanSpirit, and they had been doing it for 18 years when they coached me on how to be successful in running a women's retreat. So they went along and they told me all this amazing stuff. And so I started this other women's retreat. They actually seeded SisterSpirit. They gave us money to start off with for our success. It's so beautiful. Now last year, WomanSpirit decided, it's our 25th year, they've been doing it for 25 years. 25th year, they decided we're done. We're gonna put WomanSpirit to rest. What I did is I talked to my SisterSpirit team and I said, look, there's 120 women who come to WomanSpirit. We have SisterSpirit in the spring. What if we did SisterSpirit in the fall too? And my team said, yes, let's totally make sure that these women are taken care of. And so this year is the year that we're putting on a fall retreat. And what happened out of the WomanSpirit women is there was a group of women who decided they didn't want WomanSpirit to die. And so they created WomanSpiritRising, another retreat in the fall. And now WomanSpiritRising and SisterSpirit are going on at the same time. And I got a call from the person who was leading this, Lori Guerrero. She's a ministerial student. She called me up and she said, I'm noticing this tension, this feeling between my team members and the fact that you're doing SisterSpirit, we're doing WomanSpiritRising, and I'm noticing this. And I was noticing too. I was like, what is that? Why does this feel like we're in competition? Why? And we had a discussion and we came to the realization that what we're doing is really good work in the world. And how many women are in the world? And how many women are in the Bay Area? Plenty of women. Plenty of women who need to hear what we have to say, who need the message that we're giving out. And so we came to an understanding that we were going to co-support each other. That there's enough people and there's a good purpose in the world for us to both have successful women's retreats in the fall. As a matter of fact, there should be a lot more. And there should be men's retreats too, teaching the same stuff. How to be loved, how to be cared for, how to be adored, how to receive. How to receive. But I still notice that twinge come up sometimes. Like they sent out this mailing out to everybody who went to WomanSpirit, and I received it, WomanSpiritRising. It was really cool. Such a great mailing. I was inspired by it. And yet at the same time within me, I thought, oh my God, we didn't do a mailing. We should do that. And then I thought, where is that coming from? It's that deep-rooted story of separation that I have to be in competition. So I notice it still comes up in me. And what do? I notice it. I notice it. And that's all. And I provide the spaciousness for it to be. There's a story of this woman. Her name is Felipe Pimentel. She's a leader in the transistiontown movement. This is a story in here. And so her idea is to assist towns in transition. And so she was active in a transition initiative in one of the most depressed regions of Portugal. And this is a place that's mired in economic depression, 25% employment. Huge unemployment rate. And this group was trying to help kind of revitalize this town, to assist them in moving to the next step. And the group started getting really burnt out. It really wasn't working. They were totally overwhelmed at the crisis that was happening in this town. And one day the group came to a consensus. They decided that they can't fix everything. So instead, what they're going to do is they're going to look after each other and care for one another. If they noticed that somebody's not doing well, everybody would pitch in to support them. Also, their initiatives that they do would come from pure generosity and intention. And the people in that group would continuously look for personal development so that they can become a point of inspiration and influence. As a matter of fact, everything they do, they would only do it out of pleasure, not out of work or out of obligation. They decided not to engage in sacrifice and nor to prioritize their action based on somebody says is the most urgent thing to do. They knew that the town needed a world of help and they couldn't do it all. But that didn't mean that they couldn't do something. So what they chose to do is do only the things that connect them and only the things that give them pleasure. And when somebody was showing signs of tiredness and distress, they would ask, "Do you feel connected to what you're doing? Is it bringing you pleasure? Do you feel like you're sacrificing to do this? If so, then you need to stop. If it feels like work, stop doing it." And what they found is that everybody started pitching in and things started changing. Things happened much more rapidly and much more quickly than they ever thought were possible. Because people started doing the things that they were passionate about. And if they weren't passionate about it, they let it go. Now I want you to think about this. Because the new story, the story where we remember who we are, the story of interbeing, the story of a new world, a world that works for everyone, is a story where our technology of the age is service. Where we're doing the thing that we love. Where we offer our time, our energy, our skills, and our lives as gifts to the whole world. We step in to this idea that we are something and we're here created to give our gifts away. There's something important about each and every one of us. And so it happens that when we give, we're not only giving to ourselves, but we're giving to the entire world. But it's the thing that you're passionate about. There's something there. What are you passionate about? So I want to invite you to think about what is it that you're passionate about? And how can you give to this community? How can you give to your work community? How can you be a point of inspiration wherever you're at? What is it that brings you passion? And how can you share it? Because that's the new world that we're stepping into. That's not the world of separation. That's the world that recognizes when I share my gifts, I'm supporting the world. And each and every one of us starts supporting each other because we're passionate about it. It makes us feel alive because we're in tune with that vibration of who we really are. So I want you to invite you to think about that. What can you do that comes from pleasure, desire, inspiration, illumination? What feeds you? What brings you light? I know that Brenda Vieira loves kids. And so she stepped into supporting, when we have kids here, she stepped into supporting our young mystics and growing up to be those older mystics. But it's because she loves it. She loves it. I want you to do what you love. And whatever you don't love, let it go. Because struggle is not the default of life. Joy is. But there is one thing that you need to know. When you start shining your light to the fullest, all the areas in your life that you've been ignoring, all of those shadow sides that you haven't been accepting about yourself, come to the surface. So you are doing the good work. And it's just an opportunity to heal all of that. So you're going to follow 3 steps. 1 is find out what it is you're passionate about. 2, step into that service that you love. And 3, open yourself up to receive the healing of the wounds that you had of your past. And it may be uncomfortable. I'm in it right now. Totally uncomfortable. Totally uncomfortable. And yet, I'm willing because I want to buy into a new idea for this world. I want to live like Star Trek lives. Where they're doing it because they love what they're doing. They're not getting paid for their jobs in Star Trek. They're doing it because they love it. So just imagine this world like that. And between you and me, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. And I think we can do it in my lifetime. I'll be bold enough to say, I think we can achieve peace in my lifetime on this planet. Because we're powerful enough to shift that within us, to see a new idea of what's possible. So thank you. Thank you for playing with me today. I love you. Namaste.